Well, welcome. Thank you so much, managers, for coming, and coaches who have stuck around. Appreciate it. We're going to just start with Robin, and then I'll kind of go back and revisit the agenda, but basically, yeah. Anyways, we're going to start with Robin because his time is precious, and he just did a coach meeting. And anyways, this is Robin, our referee mentor. And he's going to share a little bit with you about what that looks like with respect to managers, teams, all that good stuff.
So the important part about a manager is what? Letting the officials in the penalty box know that you guys need to help out the young referees. All right. So as it, yeah.
Heard it earlier.
Yeah, heard it earlier. So as an official, I'm coming to the managers to let you know that when you guys sign your timekeepers, your scorekeepers, or the penalty box door openers, we would ask you as an official to let them know that they're supposed to be neutral players. Or they're on our team. Okay, they're not allowed to cheer. You know, even though that's your kid that just scored his very first goal, we ask you not to cheer. Reason, when we get into the higher levels especially, we get into the situation where we've actually had off-ice officials, we'll call them off-ice officials. There's been racist comments, sexual comments, and there's lots of discrimination. Okay, so as an off-ice official, they are allowed to tell us, and we can kick that individual out of the game. We can kick the coach out of the game. We can do that kind of stuff. So we want you to let your, as the manager, we want you to make sure that when you assign your people to the penalty box, that you're just giving them a heads up. And Erin will bring it up again, but she's making a little booklet, and it'll let you guys know what's expected in the penalty box. We want you guys just to forward to your, when you assign for the week, just to know this is what we want. We want you to help out the young officials as much as we can. Even the seniors officials, like for discrimination and all that kind of stuff. Last year, I'll bring this up, no comments from these guys. Last year, can anybody guess how many times the referees stepped on the ice? We had 65 referees last year. They stepped on the ice 977 times. Okay, we had one official ref 79 games last year, and we had 2 officials that ref just 1 game. But that 1 game is just as important as those 79, right? So manager stuff, in a nutshell, I think we're covering, talk about cheering. No. In a nutshell, that's it. We just got to make sure that, like, it was different with the coaches. But with the managers, we just have to make sure that when you guys do assign, that we do make sure that you guys let them know that they're helping the officials out. They're not a parent for that day. They're actually just off-ice officials. Yeah, I think in a nutshell, yeah, kind of went blank there.
It's all right.
You got your little thing. That's
Okay.
Robin,
So,
there's a few new managers and new to this whole thing.
Sure.
So the parent volunteers that are in the penalty box, timekeeping, score, and penalty
the doors. Yep.
is an unofficial.
They are an official.
They are
They are
Off-ice.
official. Yeah.
off-ice.
Off-ice officials.
off-ice
Yeah.
official. And so what you're saying is they're to help the referees if there is anything
Yeah.
untoward going on.
So as an off-ice official, you're there to support the on-ice officials. Okay, so if anything happens on the bench, like I said, discrimination. If you hear a player come off, and he's like, F that guy, he's nothing but a gay or whatever, just use it. That's discrimination. And you can let us know, or the person in the penalty box can let us know, and we can suspend that player from play. We can kick that player out of the game. We can't hear when we're out on the ice versus what you guys can hear behind that glass. You guys can hear the coaches screaming and yelling. You can hear all that stuff. If you hear discrimination, any of that kind of stuff, you can bring it to our attention and we can remove that individual from the game. Okay, does that kind of cover it?
And that goes for coaches, that
Yep.
goes for players, that
Everything,
goes for.
yeah. So that's why we say we want you to remain neutral, and I brought it up at the coach meeting. We want you to remain neutral. We don't want you cheering and then, well, this guy said a sexual comment towards somebody. We don't need you saying that stuff. We want to make sure that you are a neutral player or a neutral official in the box for us. Okay. Did you have a question back there? No. Good.
And so then we like just buzz to get the attention, like we can't.
You'll
say
wait till the
anything,
place.
even though we want
Yeah,
to.
you'll let the individual know. They just need to wait till the play stops, and
Yeah.
then you can buzz us over, and we'll come and deal with it.
Yeah, I mean so it's interesting because we talked about this last year, Andrea, during the meeting while Robin was here last year. And admittedly, I didn't understand and fully grasp the role of the person in the penalty box or doing the score. Like, I did not appreciate that, even though we ran into a U9 tournament, I think, last season or the season before, the season before. Same thing, we had like a rough team on the ice. Newer refs, didn't have a mentor at the time, and they weren't necessarily calling some of the penalties they should have been calling. And then all hell broke loose in the lobby, and parents were obviously very upset because they were worried that their kids were going to get hurt. And our volunteer in the box wouldn't have known that, hey, I don't see the refs calling penalties, they should be calling some penalties, or I'm just not quite sure they have control of the game, and so they should have contacted our tournament officials, and we could have come in and at least taken part of that. I guess stress off them or what have you, and just gotten on it a little earlier. So last year's meeting was really an eye-opener for me. So it took me some time to put together this little folder or whatever, and there's going to be one in each arena, but I'm going to share it not only with the managers to help drill that message home, but I'll share it with everybody in the association. And in it, you're going to find the EAP for the arena, right, where the emergency exits are, where the AED is in the facility, same thing for Banff, and then the call numbers, and then the process, because like every team's going to have a safety person, and what we're going to encourage this year is not only that person who has the safety certificate, but every game having somebody who's potentially the call person of the day or whatever, or of the game. So if somebody comes off the ice injured, they can get them into the dressing room, they can tend to whatever that looks like, or they're the person calling for the ambulance or what have you. It's just being a little bit prepared when I don't feel like we have been, and that's, I feel like that's on us as an association that we haven't, communicated the importance of that. Anyways, and then there's also the off-ice officials and what that role looks like and what you can do. In here as well is the how to correctly track shots on goal. So if you're a goalie parent, you know how important that is for the goalie. And so we're going to try and do our best. It's not rocket science, but at the same time, usually when you're in the box, you work together to try and, oh, was that a shot on goal? Was that a shot on goal? And you kind of work together, all 3 or 4 of you or whatever in the box. So that's in here too. Like I said, I'll share that with everybody. I'll share that with the membership, and then that'll also just live in the box. So if you want a reference and you're waiting for the ammonia finish for the game to start, you can kind of glance through those pages again, just for a refresher.
Good. Just a quick one too, I've kind of just thought of it too. In regards to, think about a rough hockey game. Let's say you guys are traveling out of town and you have a really rough game. Managers, I'll give you my phone number. If you think that I need to be at that particular game, don't hesitate to text me and say, hey, we have a U15 game in Canmore at 4 o'clock. We'd like you to show up. And I can come out as a ref mentor, and I'll talk to my young officials, and then I'll actually, for the most part, I'm usually in the crowd all weekend. And that's the thing too, if I'm in the crowd and you see me, I'm usually sitting in the foyer. If you have a comment or a suggestion or anything, don't hesitate to come up and talk to me. I usually sit in line with the blue line, or with the home team on the red line kind of thing, or on the red line, blue line area in the foyer. Don't hesitate to come up and talk to me if you see something that's concerning as a manager especially. I'd rather you guys talk to me instead of going in and trying to talk to the young officials. Hopefully I can explain it to you better. But my phone number, if everybody wants, it's 403-678-8071.
It's the same as my number.
What's your number?
8076.
678 though?
Yeah, the whole thing, the same.
You're like this, guys.
So now, what is it?
403-678-8071. And I think Tim Hortons is like 8701, because I get a lot.
I thought he was going to ask for one, actually. That's funny. I thought, like, when you want to call me or you want me, just make sure you know Timmy's.
I'll tell you this one quick. So the phone number came through one time. and if I didn't have like Aaron's number on it or whatever, I would answer Tim Hortons, like that's how bad I got. and some guys like, is Abigail there or whatever, and I'm like, nope, she comes in but she just leaves, and she's like, I just dropped him off and I'm gonna have a word with that kid when he gets home. I'm like, oh no, I'm getting this kid in trouble. So I stopped doing it. So. But it's been pretty good, so I think they changed their number. But yeah, don't hesitate to call me if you guys want me to show up. And like I said, for the most part, on the weekends I'm there. Last year we had put in it was over 200, I think it was 230 hours on every weekend at the rink. Sometimes it was 12-hour days, Saturday and Sunday. But just making sure that we're there to help out our officials. And like I said, just as you guys as managers, we just need you to support your team to help our officials out too.
Just something to add, just based on experience from last year, and it kind of follows up on that. You know, we just had a coaches meeting, and Robin goes into more depth about, you know, what's acceptable from coaches with referees. As the team manager, you're often the sobering voice and the adult in the room, and the coaches get competitive and they forget. It's not acceptable for a coach to yell at a referee, whether it's our local referees or when we're on the road referees. So last year I had to do this with my coach, just remind them of that, you know, and if they push back, utilize Robin, like, for, you know, to have that conversation with them. But, you know, some of your teams likely will get into heated games where the refs or the coaches get a little overzealous, start yelling at refs. It's just not acceptable. And, you know, our coaches are representing Canmore Minor Hockey when they're on the road, so you might just have to remind them of that once or twice.
So here's a quick question. In our coaches meeting, it was brought up that if the visiting coach was being unruly or what have you, can the off-ice official, or can the other head coach, can they intervene? Can they help the official? And the answer for Robin was no, it's the official's job to control the situation. My question to you is, could our off-ice official recognize, you're not there, say for example, could they recognize that that young official is struggling in that moment and have a conversation with that referee and remind them of what they're capable of in that moment, or, you know, does that
Absolutely.
make sense? Yeah.
Okay, so it's been brought up too. If the individual in the penalty box just needs to identify themselves as an off-ice official, your behavior right now is unacceptable. Okay, and it should end there, right? And then if it doesn't, by chance, we could talk to you could talk to the young official and say this guy should not be in this game anymore. I know it's tough for the young official to put his hands on his hip and say, you are no longer required, or you're no longer allowed to play in this game, especially to an adult, right? So we're trying to grow young confident individuals. So, but yeah, thanks, Aaron. I appreciate that. You saying that, like thinking that, I never ever thought of it on the manager's end to notify the coaches, hey, from just what we see over here, it's looking a little bit unprofessional there.
Yeah.
So I appreciate that one. I never thought about that before, and that's good. Any questions, comments? Yeah, like I said, it's a lot different than the coaches' side meeting with the coaches. But, good.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
Robin,
everybody, thank you. We'll see you on the ice. And like I said, don't hesitate when you see me, even just to come up and say hi, so I know who's around for the game.
Are you interested in meeting the teams and explaining your role and how they can support and empower the young officials?
You know, I've never ever thought of that. I would think that there would be nothing wrong with it for sure.
Yeah.
Like in expectations of the players
Just lay it
towards
out
the
there.
referees as well, right? Like it's, you know, and like we said, we're all Canmore people. We're all Canmore kids, you know, and to be, that's a good idea.
I'll invite you then, I'll reach out.
100%, yeah, good idea. Yeah.
Yeah, CMHA is really lucky to have Robin. I don't know how many other associations have this going and have somebody of your character and just your willingness to be here and be a solid individual for these refs. Like, we're just so lucky.
Well, thanks.
It's
Yeah.
huge.
That's,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it. I think I've been involved with minor hockey for over 20 years now.
No, more than that, it's played.
Well, yeah, in regards to that. Yeah, but just like, well, I was vice president, coach for all those years, vice president, parent, yeah. It's been good, and I still, and I enjoy coming and watching all the kids play hockey still. my time is Canmore Minor Hockey. Aaron knows that. Awesome, thank you.
Thanks, Robin.
Well, I feel like we only have one league director here, Kara. Thanks for being here. So that she obviously is our RHL director. We also have a Cal director, that's Dean Irvine. We have a female director as well, and then we only have one female U9 team this year, which is pretty sweet. We're hoping they continue and move into 11 next year. Yeah, treasurer, Leah's not here tonight, but Leah Young is our treasurer. And so Leah, obviously, you'll be working with if you need to borrow funds for a tournament. Coaches, if any of your coaches have courses that they've taken and they want reimbursement for, there is a form, it's on the website. I will make sure to share that with them all, that they need to complete that form and attach any of their receipts to. Used to go through the team manager back in the day, and then we realized, why are we doing that to team managers? And so now we've just got this form for them to fill out, and they can be reimbursed for those courses. I'm obviously Erin, I'm your operations manager. I handle registration with players, I handle team registration in the back end of the Hockey Canada registry, and then I do all the ice scheduling and a number of other things we don't need to talk about. You've met the ref mentor, Robin, and then all of you, our team managers, and obviously a few sporadic coaches here. Thank you very much for being here. So the team manager, as some of you know, because you've done it before, you've done it for years, and some of you are brand new, facilitates communication within the team, including the players, the parents, coaches, league directors, Kara being one of them, the officials, Robin being kind of at the front of that. I also do the ref assigning as well. League governors, so you'll each have a governor. RHL, do they still do that? Do the governors correspond with the managers? Yeah. Okay, and then Cal governors as well. And so you should be hearing from them soon, because they have your contact information, or they will be having your contact information soon. And with myself and with other members of Canmore Minor Hockey. They are also responsible for completing off-ice tasks or delegating and organizing support of those duties. This includes organization of game day volunteers, so that's what Team Snap is for. You can set up all of those tasks in Team Snap. It's really handy, and parents then have to go in and sign up for those jobs. And team finances, again, if you think your team is going to be doing some away tournaments and you want to do either a cash call or some fundraising, you might want somebody in charge of the finances if you don't want that to be yourself. Lots of opportunity anyways to delegate and try and get support. Equipment usage, tournament or exhibition games, and team certifications. So there is a manager handbook on our website. I just updated the dates today. Most of the information is, I would say, pretty current, and that's on our website. I don't know if I can click on this and it'll, oh, look at that, it'll take me to it. So this is on our website, and it's under staff resources, and then there's manager information here, okay? And if you flow through, you can see there's a section for, thank you, Justin, you set this up for me a couple of years ago. There's a section here for U7, section here for U9, and then kind of it carries on into the rest. You can see there's a bit of a section here for RHL and then for Cal. The dates have been updated, so with the exception of U13 Tier 1, all the games start October 17th weekend, so that's the weekend after Thanksgiving. You may not get your schedules until about 3 or 4 days before that. Just know that the start of the season is pretty dicey. You're going to have to hold off your parents as much as they want to know, because they want to make plans. That's out of our control. It's up to the leagues, right? So we have to have patience and wait for that. And then, especially with Cal teams, they usually only post a couple of weekends at a time, and then they're going to see how your teams are doing, and if you need to be re-tiered somewhat, then they'll post the next 2 weekends, something like that, okay? And then we're waiting for the regular season. So once tiering is done, you know where you're staying or moving to, then same thing, you won't get that schedule until a few days probably before regular season starts. RHL might be a little different, and they usually only post until Christmas, and then they post again dates after Christmas sometime in December. So they kind of do half a season at a time. Playoffs usually start in February for every team. They usually carry through until you're done. When you're done, unfortunately. And we seem to have started earlier over the last few seasons. It always seemed like late February, now it's mid-February. But that's just something to keep in mind. Late season tournaments are a possibility as well. You can do an away tournament, after the season is done. You just don't quite 100% know when your season is done. So look for tournaments that happen like late March if that's something you want to do. And then on that note, in playoffs, if your team is done and they lose their series, they usually only get one practice post playoffs, and the season is over. Okay, so let me go back to my. So that was the handbook. Refer to that at any point. There's lots of information in there. So most of you, maybe not all of you, have been given access to the team drive folder, and this is just a great place to keep things for the team. It's got contact information, medical information. So back in the day, we would give our managers a binder that they had to carry around, and it had to have all these medical forms filled out, so all this personal private information. And we just thought, we don't want to have those paper copies anymore. We'd like to take it online, so this is where we've got it, and it's only myself and Justin and I think Tanya, our volunteer director, and then both the manager and coach who have access to that information. And the medical stuff is there, and everything that you guys fill out during registration. It's a long process, I appreciate, but it's the Hockey Canada medical sheet. So basically I've taken all those questions on the medical sheet and I've just put it as part of registration. So we can capture all that and put it in the drive in case you need access to that at any point. So if you've got kids who have allergies and they carry an EpiPen or whatever, it's good to know. Also the team checklist is in there. So again, I'd like to actually see if I can show you all in a moment. If you haven't yet taken a look, I'm going to use Andrea's team for a quick example here. So this is kind of like what their back end looks like in their folder. So they have their volunteers. Justin's going to speak about that in a short moment. And then they have this team checklist, and this is for staff. So what we do here is we start listing all the staff that are here, and then I come in. What I want you to do, if this hasn't been done yet, is update this section here with all the names of your head coach, assistant coach, and on-ice helpers. If you could designate the difference between an on-ice helper and an AC for me, that would be great. So just put OIH next to their name. That way I know they don't need all of these things. They only need a couple of these things. And then I will come through and I will populate these cells here because I have access to that information in the Hockey Canada registry. So you're not responsible for that part. Even if they're like, yeah, no, I've done it. That's great, but it has to be visible on my end. So that's why I'm just asking you to leave that section alone. But if you can just put their names in, that would be great. And then, while we're here, we may as well talk about it, blackout dates. So what those are essentially is the league will not schedule your team to play on that weekend. You have two opportunities for blackout dates during the regular season. So you can't attend a tournament during tiering. You cannot attend a tournament during the first 2 weeks of regular season or the last week of regular play, okay? So you have this short window of time. It's usually like December 5, something like that, to February 1st, 2nd, somewhere in there. Anyways, so it's not a big window of time, but basically what I want you to do is put in the dates here, okay, so that I know that I have to send that to the league. So I'm going to do that because as an ice scheduler, it's good for me to know that. So if you just leave that to me, I will do the form for you, and I will notify the league that you're not going to be playing on that weekend. And then I know not to provide ice for that weekend as well for your team, okay? If you have a home tournament, it counts towards one of those blackout dates. So up first in November, 14 to 16, Barrymore, we've got the, sorry I confused you there, we've got the Cal U11 A and B teams hosting a tournament, and then in December we have U9 tournaments. We have 2 of them. And then and I believe, Kara, correct me if I'm wrong, that's our RHL tournament and our rep tournament. Thank you very much. And at the beginning of January, we have RHL U11 and U13 kind of co-hosting a tournament. And then we have U7 tournament in January. And then at the end of the month, we're doing U9 female. And then not again until March, we have another U7. So that's kind of the, yes, go ahead, please.
I was already trying to find tournaments for our team, and a lot of them, it's my first time doing this, a lot of the asks were, is there a reciprocal tournament?
Yeah.
So there isn't one for U15. Will there be next year? Okay.
I mean, I doubt it.
Okay.
So if any of you have people that are asking and you're on a U15 why we don't do U15 tournaments, we did try a couple of years ago. That was ugly. There is, and I know that not every, you know, you don't necessarily always want to say no just because that was a crappy weekend. But there's just so much to consider. Number one, we don't have a giant pool of officials that can officiate U15 games, or U18 for that matter. If we had a plethora of older adult officials, and maybe we will someday, that might be something we can consider. But injuries are a big one, okay? And then parents weren't the best behaved in that, right? Because it's contact and emotions, and there was a lot of stuff happening in the lobby. It was not fun, and even for your home tournament organizers as well, it was a lot. So I think number one, that's kind of one of the main reasons why we don't do it. I wish we could do a tournament for every single one of our kids. It's just not that possible. But yeah, we don't have a reciprocal for U15, so that will make it a little tougher for you to get in. Not impossible. Calgary always hosts a lot of U15 tournaments, but maybe not till later in the year. And then remind me, which group are you representing?
RHL, so it's no hit.
Yeah.
That adds another.
Yeah. So yeah,
should do it.
that's right. So if you're looking, I think I recommended NBC2, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's like a tier 5 kind of thing.
I like
Yeah. So I mean, if you ever want help, let us know. On that manager handbook page, there's I think a number of links. So there's the tournament, Hockey Alberta one. I think we might have linked to the BC.
Yeah, there's BC tournaments. I think there's Calgary Hockey has their own
Yes,
like
they
tournament
do.
page, and then there's like a Facebook group as well. That's
Yeah, the
pretty
minor
useful.
hockey, Alberta minor hockey tournaments. There's a
Yeah,
Facebook
that's
page. Yeah.
spectacular.
And so, sorry, I just didn't understand the blackouts. We should be looking to book tournaments before December.
Like whatever 2 weeks after. So if we start league play on the 22nd or something like that, so
Okay.
that weekend, and then the 29th, 30th, or whatever that, no tournaments. So you can
Okay.
start looking right into December. Yeah.
So for early December.
Yeah.
So the November 14 to 16 for U11 A and B, that's kind of in
It's okay.
between. So
Yeah, it's
do
your
you have
cherry
to
break.
put in for a blackout or anything?
No, you don't.
Oh, perfect. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a great
Which is
concern.
kind of why we often give it to Cal teams, just because it's a bit of a lucky break. You
Yeah.
happen to have that weekend off, whereas RHL teams don't. So, yeah. Anyways, okay. So
I
that's
just want
kind
to
of.
mention really quickly
Oh,
because Erin didn't, and I know this is one of the biggest questions that comes up, but why didn't my team get a tournament at home? And Erin was nice in saying that sometimes it's just a nightmare, but maybe more important than that is Canmore has one of the lowest registration fees for hockey in Alberta. Part of that reason is because you have an amazing team of volunteers that put together between 7 and 9 tournaments every single year that bring in funds that offset much of what we have to pay as parents to have our players on the ice. The more teams we can get here, the more funds we make. So if we want to have a U15 or U18 tournament, we are going to have half or a third of the number of teams that we can have at U7 or U9, sometimes U11.
Yeah.
So I know, and part of the Intro to Hockey program, for U7 and U9, is also to have a home tournament, to have that experience and be able to get involved with hockey. So sometimes it doesn't feel fair, but know that there is a reason, there is a method to the madness, and it's to try and make sure that we have as many players on the ice throughout the whole year, and we do that by offsetting registration fees.
Ooh, and play with each other here. And for the teams that don't have the opportunity to have a home tournament, we will open up the opportunity to have a booze basket at that tournament. So the teams hosting the tournaments themselves aren't going to have that opportunity this year. It's going to be for everybody else. So basically, I'll send out a request to managers to find out, poll your team, you can do whatever you want, basically asking if you guys want to put in a booze basket. And there is a opportunity to make probably about $1,500.
Yeah.
Okay, so generally what you're looking for is either every parent on your team brings a bottle of wine or whatever else, or you guys go out and try and solicit a few donations. We've seen some spectacular booze baskets over the last few years where it's not just booze, it's like there's gift cards, there's a cooler, a beautiful Yeti cooler. I mean, we've seen a lot of things. Obviously, not that easy for some teams to do because they might not have all the right connections or whatever, but again, if every parent just puts in one thing, it's a really big hit because it's part of our package that we create with the rest of the raffle offerings, and it helps to sell. And so again, that money, I think 25% of those sales go back to us, and 75% goes back to the team. So again, that's going to go, the opportunity is there for those teams who don't have a home tournament. If they don't want it, that's fine. The association will do their own thing and we will take 100% of the profits. But we just want to at least give you the opportunity to do that if you want. And does it have to be booze? No. Again, if there's swag, you know people who work with this place or that place, we can, you can kind of be creative and put something together. It doesn't have to be a full-on booze basket. It's just something that we find is quite popular. So yeah.
Buy a ticket.
And while we're in here, I just also wanted to point out, for those of you who haven't necessarily looked yet, we have a jerseys and sizing page. So this year we captured all sizing for our players during evaluations. We might have missed a couple here and there. So that's here. You'll find in the one side of the sheet. On the left side of the sheet, for most of our teams, there is a full set, okay? The reason why some of these cells are grayed out is because I've taken those jerseys for other teams because we needed them, or because there's a conflict with some of these extra jerseys that we brought in. So we're not going to use a number 2 adult small because we're using an a youth extra large number 2 here for this player. Again, going according to the sizing that we captured during evaluations. Okay, it's working pretty good. I will ask you all not to touch the info that's in this column here where you see extra jerseys and what have you. This is going to help us at the end of the year because it is a giant cluster to try and piece this out at the end of the season where you've got how many different sets and what have you, and trying to get things back to where they belong. So just do me that favor and just don't touch that column there because it helps us keep things on track. But yeah, so that's kind of what that looks like. I'm going to hop back here.
Erin, when do you
Yes.
need that completed by for the jerseys?
I mean, I can send, so information is, so if you're lucky and you're in the RHL, our two systems talk to each other in the back end. So I don't really care when I have jersey numbers, in all honesty, for them. Cal's a little bit of a different story because I have to send them something separate. Basically, if I don't get jersey numbers within the next 2 or 3 days, and I'm not going to stress anybody out to do that, what happens then is the information, the roster goes to Cal and it gets uploaded on their website. And even if there's no jersey numbers attached, basically when you're going to play your first game, it's either going to be on you as a home team, the data entry person, to put those numbers in during that data entry process. Like you're going to take the game sheet, you're going to put it in online, or it's going to be on the away manager because that's your first game and you're playing away for your first game. So you're going to say, hey, sorry, none of our jerseys are in, or our jersey numbers are in, and we're just going to ask you to do that for us. It's not great, but I also know it's quite stressful to hey, you guys gotta get your crap together, and I need it in 2 days, and so.
So if we fill the spreadsheet in, you tell the league. I don't need to tell the league.
Thank you. Yeah. So we're gonna move on to the Hockey Canada roster, or the HCR. Some of you already know about this beauty. This is also going to be uploaded into your Drive folder, so you have access to it. And you do need to have access to it, so make sure you know how to get to it. You and your coach, if you want to give access to one other coach that is going to be at most every game, that's cool too. You can just share this specific file with them. So anytime we make a change to this roster, I'm going to upload another copy. I've already just told the coaches, don't give me a change you need on a Friday night and expect everything to be hunky-dory for the next morning. As much advance notice is what I need, just because I don't always work around the clock. Despite what it looks like these days. Right? So anyways, you're going to see here all your players are going to be listed in the top half, and all your coaches and or affiliates are going to be listed in the bottom half. So anybody who's on this roster here, coaches or players or affiliates, has to be on this roster in order for them to be on the ice or on the bench. So if you just have a nice willing parent who's happy to step up onto the bench one day because you guys are kind of short-handed, but they're not on this roster, it doesn't matter if they have the credentials, they can't. Have to be on this roster. So that's why this is pretty important to get right.
And do you still get a fine?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So if unfortunately, somebody's on that bench and they end up on the game sheet or on that label that's on the game sheet and they're not on that roster, yes, that head coach could get an indefinite suspension and a $200, $500 fine, somewhere in there. It's not fun, especially when it's just an honest mistake, right? So I'm just trying to drill that home, that essentially that has to be perfect. So as we start to, go ahead.
The extra folks, then you put them in the affiliates?
The players.
Players.
Yeah, that's just for players. So as we start adding affiliates, so something that happened a few years ago, teams can add up to 19 affiliates. I never want to see 19 affiliates. There's no need for 19 affiliates, but one of our coaches did. He asked for 19 affiliates because that's how many he could ask for. He just wanted to cover all bases, all 19 bases. But anyways, I went ahead and did it, and then I sent it back to them and I said, could you just make sure this is right? I think it's right. Well, unfortunately, he played one player that was not listed, and this is what happened. He got fined, and he got an indefinite suspension, and it was a major slap in the face, because again, it was just, I missed it, and they missed it. So I will send that message to you guys, hey, here's your HCR. I really need you to make sure that everything's correct, right? My eyeballs aren't working as good as they used to 20 years ago, so if you could just make sure for my sake. So managers or coaches, whatever that looks like, it is ultimately on the coach.
Once it's finalized, or even if it's not and it's pending, I recommend you print it off and have a hard copy of it.
Mm.
Sometimes you'll get asked about a player and you're trying to pull it up on your phone and you can't find
That's
the folder.
fair. Yeah.
So likely have a folder with like the scorebook and stuff, if you're Cal, because I think RHL does electronic sheets, but have a copy of that in there.
Yeah, good call. And so you'll notice that checklist that I showed you with the team, qualifications. Players need to have the respect and support parent as well. And so when they don't and parents need to renew, I can't actually put them on the HCR. The system doesn't allow me to do it. So that's same for coaches as well. So I've already kind of started that process where I've done my work in the back end of RAMP, and it actually syncs through to the HCR. It's quite nice. I don't have to do things individually anymore. So I'll go through and I'll triple check that I have the same number of players and the players are all there, and sometimes I find that there's missing players, and that's the reason why. And then I will reach out to that parent. I'll let the manager know as well, and coach, but I'll reach out to that parent and say, you gotta get this done. Or I might just ask the manager, say, hey, could you notify the family that your kid's not playing this weekend unless you get this done. So that's stuff that I'm doing over the next 3-4 days. So you might hear from me about some missing players that need to get that credential. Yeah.
I missed, where is this?
So it will live in your drive.
Oh,
Once,
okay.
once I just don't have all the assistants and stuff
That's
like
okay,
that added. Yeah. So it'll just take me a few more days. But yeah, so between now and November 15th, you're gonna see that little line here of P's. I guess I can like present again, and then you guys can probably see this a little bit better. Okay. There's a line here of P's. This just means pending. Okay. Obviously, there's a legend here. As of November 15th, I have to submit these rosters for approval with Hockey Alberta. Excuse me, and more or less that falls down onto the head coaches or the coaches, because they have a little bit of extra time to get some of their certifications done, which is November 15th. And so it's a mad rush before November 15th, especially if coaches are kind of waiting to the last minute to do their certifications and what have you. But you'll see once it's approved by Hockey Alberta, then I'll send it back to you and it'll have a check mark, essentially just saying all those people are approved.
So for Cal, the kids don't have to have the parent respect and support before cheering?
Oh, they do, for
They
sure,
do,
yeah.
okay.
It's just the
It's
the
just
extra
the
coach courses
final.
that need to be done before the 15th.
Oh, I
Yeah,
see.
so before the first game, right, everybody needs to have respect and support, whether parent or activity leader. Has to be done or they can't be on the ice or the bench, yeah.
Team managers need activity leader as well. Is that
Well, no.
correct? No?
So that's the thing. It's great to take, certainly, but I was told, so I've had a fun relationship with Hockey Alberta over the years. Each admin lead that I've worked with has been a little different. Somebody I had a few years ago from Okotoks said, I want your roster to be as clean as possible. If somebody doesn't need to be on the bench at any given time, like at any point in the season, don't put them on the roster. And to me, that's a manager. So unless you're a manager that thinks you're gonna be on the ice once in a while or on the bench once in a while, I'm not putting you on that roster. Therefore, you don't need to do the respect and support activity leader. Will I make you guys do potentially a vulnerable sector screening? Yes, I'd like to do that because you are working with the kids, right? So I'll communicate that with you here shortly. But I have a letter that you can take to the RCMP detachment, and I'll honor anything that you've gotten within the last couple of years. So if you've done one for the school or what have you, that's cool. Yeah. Anyways.
And if you are a manager that's on the team roster, I know for Cal, I don't know, or I think RHL's the same. You can't be in the score box at all.
Yeah, you can't. Well, I think RHL's.
RHL might be different,
Cal
but for
sure.
Cal, yeah.
So if you are, you guys, I'll also put, if you would like, not everybody wants my label. I have a label sheet I can share with everybody, and I can put it in your drive. And essentially, you have to populate one column, and the rest will populate for you. And then you can put that into a machine with some label, a label printer or a label sheet, anyways, and print those out. And so for the paper sheet people, the RHL teams don't really need this, but for the paper sheet people, you can use those for your games. Yeah, don't list yourself as manager on that label if you're not on the HCR. So again, only the people who are on the HCR should be on that roster label. okay?
Okay.
Doesn't mean you're not team manager, you're just not listed on that label, okay?
And so to do the score box, you can't be on, so the on-ice helpers we have cannot do score box and penalty box, is that right?
Our manager can't. If they're listed, again, on the HCR and whatever, you could just kind of fly under the radar.
Basically, anybody on your HCR can't be an off-ice official.
Coaches.
Yeah.
And like players, like you know, on those labels, you'll cross off your players that aren't there.
Yes.
Even if you have a coach that's there that's not on the bench, you cross them off. So if you're the manager, you got to cross yourself off if you're not on the bench.
Yeah. Yeah, it just needs, whatever's happening on the ice or on the bench, that needs to be reflected on that label that you're gonna put on the game sheet. And it is helpful if you can cross it off with one little line, don't just like scribble them out madly, just one little nice little line and just put INJ for injured, right? And then cross out one little line, and if the player happens to be suspended, you're gonna have to put a note saying SUSP, 1 of 1, maybe they're just suspended for 1 game, maybe they're suspended for 4, and then it has to say 1 of 4, and then every subsequent, game sheet or game that they play, 2 of 4, 3 of 4, that kind of thing. So you'll get this from your governors as well, just how accurate these game sheets need to be. So I recommend just bringing for those of you that are new or you have volunteers that are new when you're doing a scorebook, I recommend bringing in a little scratch pad or whatever with you. And I always write everything down on my scratch pad first, and then once I can verify the time is correct, the person who scored the goal is correct, whatever, which team it was, right, home or away, then I can put that into the game after that once, and then I can put it in nice and neat and what have you. So I don't have a picture of a game sheet right now, which is unfortunate. No, okay, we have ordered game books as well for our Cal teams, and they should hopefully be here in time, and if they're not, I will make sure you at least have a set of game sheets to use for your first home game. But yeah, we can talk more about labels as we get a little closer to the season for sure. Okay, well I've already sort of talked about the jerseys that you guys have. There's slim pickings when it comes to numbers. I can appreciate kids might not be very happy to wear number 26. That's too bad, that's all we have. We have a bunch of new jerseys ordered over the last couple of years, and I have used a number of those new jerseys. We have no more adult smalls, they've all been divvied out to teams. I will do what I can to, over the next week or so, see what other teams are using for numbers, and then maybe if there's something that I can grab from another team, I will. And so that's why, again, I like having everything laid out as it is. I can see where things are, and then I can also kind of make things go where they need to go, kind of thing. And we've got Kristen as well, who's helping with equipment. So we'll work together on that. And I have something to give you guys tonight, which is an equipment agreement. And unfortunately, it's necessary because every year there's stuff that goes missing, or there's stuff that's just not well cared for. And so we need to kind of step it up a little bit and have this agreement in place. And what we're going to do at the end of the year is we're going to have return nights. So instead of just dumping your stuff off in the locker and we kind of trust and hope that things are there, we're actually going to have you guys bring everything back, whether it's you guys or your jersey person, doesn't matter, a team representative, essentially to come and bring everything to us to say, hey, here's everything, we can take a quick look through it, you can kind of point out, oh, there's a little tear here and whatever, that's fine, we understand that these things happen, these are not the most expensive jerseys in the world, so things do happen, lots of puck marks and what have you, lots of pilling on the collar we've noticed. Other things we've noticed are the lettering. So a few years back when we got these, we allowed some teams to put some letters on their jerseys and they were stitched in, and we won't do that again. So you might find that there's still a few letters randomly dispersed on some of these jerseys. I did not have the time or capacity to be unstitching them myself. If you want to take them off, just please take them off carefully. The other thing is if you're going to use tape, if your team really wants to do these, C's and A's, and you're going to use tape, I'm just going to ask you to kind of scrub as much of that tape up as possible. That's another thing we noticed at the end of last year was just how much kind of gunk, even though they were clean, you could smell that they were clean, there just was some gunk left over. So we love the idea of snap-on letters. If you guys want to go to the expense of getting some snap-on letters, again, if that's something that matters that much to you, go for it. The association will not be paying for those letters. Anyways, where was I? I got a little sidetracked with those things. But yeah, so everybody's going to return everything at the end of the year. We understand pucks we're not going to have as many pucks as we started with. We know that. But we're also not going to supply more pucks. 50 pucks is all you get. If your team needs more pucks, that's going to be on the team. So I do recommend a bit of fundraising or cash call, even if it's not for the purposes of going to a tournament, even if it's just to cover a few costs like that. Okay. What else? There's first aid kits. So every team is now organized. And first aid kits, pucks, pretty much, and then I will start working on pennies too. So I'll reach out to coaches and see if they want some pennies. We'll get some pennies organized for you. Right now there are no pennies. I think I've covered it all, and I'll just make sure I show you the agreement before we're done, and we can do a sign-in date. All right, on that manager page, you'll see important dates. We talked a little bit about when league play is going to start. We talked about when you can kind of do your blackout days, when you can go to tournaments. But I kind of need to know by a certain day, right? So the leagues have a deadline for blackout dates. So Cal's blackout date is like the 27th. RHL has 2 sets because they do 2 different periods of scheduling, pre-Christmas and post-Christmas. So they allow you to do sort of 2 different blackout dates. So I need Cal teams to let me know by the 27th, and I need RHL teams to let me know by the 1st for the first round. The earlier the better, because I've got like pretty much the whole season at a glance figured out, like within the next couple of weeks. And the fun part is, as soon as I start finding out when teams are not going to be here, then I've got to go and move things around and find another weekend for them, and it might not be that easy, right? So the most, and I appreciate getting into tournaments is no easy feat, so it's not always in your control when you can give me those dates, but the earlier the better for sure. Yes?
Are you saying November 1st?
Yes, for RHL teams. So we need to know by then, between now and Christmas, if you guys want to go to a tournament, and you need a blackout date.
You need someone to invite us.
Yeah, fair. So yeah, again, just a reminder that if you have a home tournament, that is one blackout date, except if you're playing on, or your tournament's on tiering break. Rescheduling a game. Has anybody in this room ever had to reschedule a game? Yeah, Andrea, how fun was that? Was it easy?
It was great.
Yeah, yeah. It's not that easy, right? And sometimes, okay, so I will say, whenever we get our first big snowfall, nobody wants to drive. It's like treacherous, and nobody wants to get on the roads. It's hard to get into, like, it's hard to kind of break that cycle because it seems to happen every year. Maybe people aren't ready with their snow tires or whatever. But it's not always that easy to reschedule a game, right? Between 2 teams, because by then, your whole, especially for Cal teams, your whole schedule has been organized. And then you're trying to find a date and time that works for 2 teams, and it's not always that possible, right? Then you're looking at potentially playing 3 games in a week or whatever. So just keep that in mind if you are the team who's on the road that day. And hopefully you don't have to play that early. It's just best to get on the road, leave early, unless the highway's closed. Like, you're gonna get into it. Until you get into it, it's a little sketchy, and then once you're in it, you're like, oh yeah, okay, I got this, right? But I would say early in the season, people like to cancel games.
The leagues won't cancel because of road conditions either.
That's right, yeah. Cal especially makes it hard. RHL not as much, but Cal for sure. So anyways, there's usually a form that you gotta fill out. You gotta have that agreement between you and the other manager, so it's up to you to, to kind of work with the other manager about what days might work. I can easily go and look and see what days might work on my end as well, especially if we're the home team. If you happen to be the away team, right, then you're sort of at the mercy of when they have ice, right? So just keep that in mind. It's just not real easy to reschedule a game. So yeah, Cal has a sheet. I just can't remember if RHL has a form to fill out. No, not as.
You would agree by email with the other manager from the other team.
Yeah.
For RHL, and then the home team manager would send the request to reschedule to the president.
Okay.
Who would then say yay or nay. Typically it's yay as long as you can provide an alternate date.
Okay, cool. Yes, where to find tournaments. We just sort of covered this already. You can look on the manager page for all those links. There are a few places to look. BC, Alberta, Minor Hockey Tournament page on Facebook. Travel permits.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like I made somebody recently do a travel permit, and then I was like, was I wrong? No, I was right. So travel permits teams need when they're traveling to a tournament, whether it's in Alberta or BC, or whether they're doing an exhibition game out of province. If you're in province, the game only needs to be sanctioned. You don't actually have to have a travel permit. Okay, so you guys are going to Banff? Somebody
Yeah,
go to
yeah,
Banff?
yeah.
You don't need it.
You don't need a travel permit. You do, that game should be sanctioned though, and that's on Banff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so they kind of do a sanction request. It's quick.
Okay.
They don't usually take long to get approved. Really easy for you U7, U9, but for U11 it shouldn't take that long to get approved. But basically that's just covering the teams with insurance. So that's travel permits. So in order to do a travel permit, and the information is on that manager handbook as well, we need a little bit of information. I have a form. I might do the form. I'm not 100% sure. It's just another form. But it keeps everything all in one place, and basically I need to know where you're going, when you're going, how many games you're playing, and I need to know the sanction number. Again, I need to know that it's sanctioned, so we're good to send you there. So that's information you're gonna get from either the tournament organizer or the out-of-province team that you're going to play an exhibition game against. Does that make sense? But the info's online. If I'm gonna do a form, I will put it online as well, and I'll send you guys that. We talked about blackout dates. So yeah, if you wanna host an exhibition game, if we have ice, and it's not always possible, or I might just shoot that out to everybody and let you know, hey, I've got ice this weekend, or I've got ice 2 weeks from now, do you guys wanna try and do an exhibition game? Each team gets 2 exhibition games covered on us. You want more than that, and I have ice, you're gonna pay for it, and you're gonna pay for the refs. But the association is willing to give you 2. It's not always possible. You might really want it, and I might not have the ice. We'll do what we can. We can look at picking up ice in Banff or Minethany. Those are options, but they're well used as well. So, any other questions with exhibition games? What that looks like? Essentially, it's good to like find a team and then talk about dates that might work for you, and then let me know. Hey, we'd like to host here, and then I can see what we've got. Better to have more than one option, and or hey, we're looking at going to an exhibition game. Is there anything that we need? You're basically going to just have to provide that team your Hockey Canada roster number, which you'll find on the Hockey Canada roster. Justin, would you like to kind of talk about the volunteer bond? Thank you. Holy cow, nobody needs to listen to that.
Okay. Hey guys, I'm Justin. I'm the CMHA secretary, but I'm filling in for Tanya, who's the volunteer director. I did the volunteer role last year, so lots of you probably know me, so I'm kind of familiar with how it works. Yeah, so last year was the first year we did a volunteer bond for real, so this required families to fulfill a certain number of volunteer hours. We use a credit system, and yeah, and a lot of that falls on the team manager to kind of coordinate. I do recommend this is a role that you assign to a parent on your team. This is something that's easy to delegate, and in that, what they do is they're the ones responsible for kind of scheduling the volunteers, whether they're using Team Snap or something so people can sign up to do, you know, a penalty box or the time clock, stuff like that. And then there's a spreadsheet where you have to record every time someone on your team has kind of done that, and that's how we keep track of, you know, how many credits all of our families have. So yeah, just a little bit about the motivation. This is something that we see more and more associations doing now, is a volunteer bond, just because, you know, without it, it ends up being a small group of people that eventually burn out, especially around our tournaments. Kara talked about how our tournaments are really where we get a lot of our funding from, so like a lot of our skill stuff and a lot of the extra stuff we're able to offer our players are things that in other associations people just don't have access to, or they have to pay for it. And in Canmore Minor Hockey, that's fee, and we're able to keep our fees relatively low compared to other associations, and a lot of that is tournaments, and what makes tournaments go is volunteers. So that's kind of why we have a volunteer bond. So just a little bit about how it works. It's kind of based on how many kids you have. The baseline is 10 credits. There is one change on here. I don't know if there's any U7 managers, but we have reduced it for U7 just because they don't play games and they don't have games scheduled. There's less opportunities for families to kind of earn credits, and so we've kind of lessened it to, I think it's 7 for a U7 player. But for U9 and up, it's 10 credits and then 5 credits for every additional kid you have registered in the association. So if you have 3 kids, it's 20 credits. There's a whole credit system that we've kind of worked out, and I'll just kind of pull it up quickly. And so it's kind of grouped into 2 categories. There's what we call like the association level, and I'll talk a little bit about that in a sec. And then there's team level stuff, and then there's kind of like team level stuff. So team level stuff is really the, you know, game day tasks that people do. So, you know, whether it's working a penalty box, running the clock, doing the score sheet, doing data entry, you know, jerseys, getting jerseys to and from the day, dry land, you know, board set up for U9 and U7, all those things go towards, you know, your credits. And again, the team manager or, you know, your volunteer coordinator, if you've delegated that role, is responsible for sort of capturing that. We'll get back to
Should be one of the
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Can I quickly just also mention to our managers here that stepping in and volunteering. We understand that. We understand dynamics they're different, no matter some single parent families or what have you, parents working, not able to get the arena. We understand that these things happen, and so if you know that you have a family or two on your team that might need a little bit of extra help trying to fulfill some of these credits or hours or whatever, or reach out to us, let us know. There's always lots of stuff kind of happening in the back end, and we can kind of get them in doing some other things, maybe even from home. Just again, trying to ensure that everybody understands that it takes a village, and it's not just up to a core group of people. That everybody has to step up in their own way, whatever that looks like. Maybe they're doing music more often than not because that's something that's easy for them to do. Maybe they find it stressful, or they get anxiety being in the box, and there's lots of reasons. But we're here to help, but we just want to ensure that everybody understands that they have a part to play, even if it's just not feasible for them to be here during all the games or during the tournaments or what have you. There's stuff that happens in the back end, and we'd love to just have help with anything, really, for the most part. At the end of last year, we had people helping with putting equipment away, sorting through all that stuff. There's locker cleanup. Our locker could use a cleanup, even right now. So I just think there's lots of opportunities. So again, if you know that somebody's struggling and to meet those requirements, just let us know, and we can work with them directly to figure that out. We ended up charging a few families last year because they didn't complete their bonds, and that's not fun. But also, it is important that they realize that they're part of this association too.
And the earlier that happens, that
Yes.
we're aware of it, the easier it is. There's opportunities that come out throughout the year. I think what we ended up happening last year is we tried to add a bunch of stuff, but it's a lot in a little amount of time, and it's not always possible for families to kind of catch up. So yeah, the earlier the better. And Tanya, the volunteer coordinator, is your point of contact for that.
For the families that pay the bond, is it possible for the manager to know
Yes,
who
they
they
will.
are? Because
It'll be reflected on that volunteer sheet.
okay,
Yes, and there's not many. I will say there's not many at all. Maybe 5 families.
Yeah, I guess that's worth mentioning. For families where it's really not an option to volunteer, just based on whatever reason, and maybe money's not the constraining factor for them, there is a fee that can be paid. It's $500, and then that alleviates them of any volunteering for the year. So there is that option as well.
Yeah, we don't want their money though. We want their
Yeah,
time.
we want people.
Yes.
So yeah, just again quickly to go over how it works. So Aaron showed you the team drive. Can I actually switch to? Yeah. So in your drive folder, there is a volunteer spreadsheet. So you pull it up, and it looks like this. This is an empty one. And so there's a few tabs here. You'll see several of them are kind of locked, which means you can just ignore those. We've added some instructions here. So this instruction tab kind of lays out what each of the tabs in the spreadsheet are used for. There's only really one that you mostly care about, and it's this games one. And so on this tab is there's the player. So this is going to have a drop down of all the players on your team. You can pick a player. And then the task is also a drop down. So all the game day tasks are already in here. So all you have to do is select the player, this person's doing the time clock, and then, fill in, this might be Elena that's doing it, and, fill in the date. And then the credits are there, and then everything kind of records. So as the team manager or the volunteer coordinator on your team, all you're ultimately responsible for is just making sure that this list is accurate. And that's the games one. The games has all the game day tasks, and then we also ask, all the team roles. So, I know that's also in a different spreadsheet, but here for the purposes of tracking those credits for your head coach, assistant coach, your manager, here's where your jersey manager can go, your volunteer manager, they all go on this kind of team roles list. And then everything else is kind of managed by us. So tournament hours, the managers are not responsible for doing tournament hours. That will be us that puts that into the system, and we use that tournament tab to do it. So what you can do is check this over. If you have a family on your team that says, hey, I volunteered for this tournament, but I don't see it updated in my credits. you can come in here, check this, and be like, yeah, no, it doesn't show that they volunteered for this tournament, and then they would reach out to us and just say, hey, I volunteered on this day. Can you just double check? There can't be things that were missed. I missed a few things last year, but you know, people were pretty good about catching that. So, and then yeah, there is a summary. It has errors, but as you fill things out, these will all actually work out. And so this is going to be your list of where everyone's at on your team in terms of their credits. And so yeah. So that's the spreadsheet. Any questions about that?
Are the parents see their own credits?
No.
They don't?
So yeah, so what I would recommend is they could ask you, and this happened to me a couple times last year, just, you know, where are we at in terms of credits, and then you can go and, you know, pull up the spreadsheet and tell them. Obviously, if the parent has multiple kids in the association, they might not know, so they might have to reach out to 2 managers. We're gonna put together like kind of a master list this year that's more tracking things based on family, so that parents can get a view, and you know, likely they would just email Tanya for that, be like, hey, yeah, and then she can easily look at each kid and be like, yeah, no, you guys are good, or you still need 3 credits total, or whatever it is.
But ultimately, you want your parents to keep track of what they're doing too. Yeah, and like RHL managers, I don't know how many of you are in here. I think as an away team, you also need to have a game sheet verifier, right? So that's a job. Even on an away game day, you're going to have a job for the game day. So it's not just home games for RHL teams. It's also or a penalty box person too, right?
Yes. So your game sheet verifier starting this year was piloted at the end of last year, but will be official this year. So every away game you will need to schedule somebody to be in the penalty box with the home team. So you'll verify the game sheet live as it happens.
Okay.
And they'll be the person that signs off on the game sheet at the end of the game as well.
So the same person is opening and closing the penalty box door and verifying the game sheet. Okay. Okay. So I don't know if do we have that as a drop down?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And did you say that person cannot be, like, is that the same person as being in the score box? Like, it can't be a manager on the roster, or is that different?
That's more or less for Cal teams. So if you're listed on that HCR and you're listed on that game label, that label that goes on the game sheet, this is just for Cal teams. Yeah, no, that manager or any of the coaches, really, for that matter, could be doing an off-ice official job. But if you're RHL, again, no coach should probably be in there anyways. But if you're a manager and you're not on that roster and what have you, and they desperately need somebody to step up, sure. Ultimately, if you want to make that rule that as a manager you're not going to do those jobs, that's fine. You have a big enough job as it is. Like, so it's all good.
And if you have a volunteer coordinator, just shoot you a note to get her access just to the volunteer sheet at the drive, not the
Yeah.
whole drive.
Yeah.
To Jessica or you?
Oh, that doesn't matter. I can.
Yeah, Tanya, and you can hit her at volunteer at Canmore Minor Hockey. It used to go to me, now it goes to Tanya.
Yes.
So those there's kind of 4 roles on the team in addition to the team manager that we give. I think they're each worth 3. I think jersey manager is now worth 4 because it can be a big job. Jersey manager, that's something you can delegate, and that's worth 4 credits to whoever takes it. The volunteer coordinator is worth 3. There's a travel kind of tournament coordinator, because that is a big job, so that's also worth 3 credits. And then some teams have like a treasurer or someone that just manages money, or if the team's doing cash calls or paying for tournaments, that person manages that. So those are kind of the 4 things that you can delegate and people get credits for taking on. So just a note on jersey manager, just because this was a bit of a confusion last year. So if you delegate a full-time jersey manager, then you can't use the game day jersey task. Like, you can't just give someone jersey manager but then have a bunch of people doing game day jerseys and getting credits. So some teams do it differently. Some teams just find one family that wants to do the jerseys all year long. Or people kind of rotate the task and do it, different family bring in the jerseys every game. I would recommend, just if you can find someone that's willing to do it, then you just know who's doing it, and it's just one less thing to manage. There's nothing worse than showing up to your games without, your away games without your jerseys.
Sorry, how I've done it on teams that I've been involved with, or how we've done it, the team, is we had a home jersey and a away jersey family, and that's kind of,
Okay.
I've got 2 volunteers right now who
Perfect.
want to do it that way. Do you
we would
If
probably
they're gonna do
split
every
it
game.
at that point.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
tough, right? Because a U9 manager isn't going to be equivalent to a U15 manager. You're going to be washing those jerseys a little bit more
Yeah, our
frequently.
team watched every time. I know last year, cause I think it was 3 points.
Yes.
I don't know how that worked out. And I know some people, yeah, I would like to give full for each, cause it does, I did it last year, away jerseys, and now that they're bigger, it's 2 loads of laundry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that's something we revisit for next year. We did add another, so it's 4 now. But if you feel that's the case, your team, email Tanya. Like, we try to be pretty reasonable about that stuff, and then we'll just make a note in the sheet that, hey, you know, this is why, and I think we agree that it's, you know, a lot of work, and, you know, fine, we'll give it to 2 families. So,
Yeah, or maybe
so yeah.
you're giving 3 as opposed to 4
Yeah,
or whatever.
but yeah, I always recommend with any variations, just communicate with the volunteer director, just so that they know, and they can make sure there's a note in the sheet, so that when we go at the end of the year and try to like reconcile everything, we we wouldn't view that as like, oh, maybe that was just a mistake. No, there's a note there saying like, yeah, we actually did agree to give both full credit for that. So.
Yeah. And thank you for taking care of the jerseys, right? I mean, I've been on teams where we've had a jersey manager and we've given our jersey at the end of every game, and I've been on teams in which the manager's like, here's your jersey, you're in charge of it this season. And that's great, I mean, because I know that we take good care of our things and it's always getting washed and hung up and whatever, but things don't get taken care of in each family. Every family's a little different. And we've seen what some of these jerseys come back looking like, if they come back at all, and it's not great. And so, again, we want to keep the money where we want to keep the money, which is in our players, and not on new jerseys every 2 or 3 years. Then that's what we want, right? Is a jersey person on every team. As much as U18 managers don't want to lug a giant heavy bag of U18 jerseys, it is what it is, right? So just take what you need with a couple extra just in case, and then that way a kid isn't showing up without a jersey either. You know they're all in one place. So
We had one game last year and I wasn't there in the afternoon, and the coach let them take their jerseys. We had a game that night as well, and one kid
Yep.
forgot his jersey.
There's always one.
One's not
No matter how old they are, there's always one.
Yeah.
Any other questions about volunteer stuff? Okay, thank you.
awesome. Thank you. All right, I promise we're almost done. Everybody wants to get home. It's Saturday night. Now, where's my schedules? Did I hop over schedules a little bit? Kind of, yes. I just wanted to quickly talk about practices. So I don't think I've sent out. I don't think I've sent anything out since I did this last night. This next week, practices should be in Team Snap. I did that. They're online. And then I also did the week after Thanksgiving online, but I don't think I did it in Team Snap. So if you guys wouldn't mind verifying that. When it comes to the rest of the regular season, that is again another thing I'm going to be working on this week. Once that's done, because it's just easy for me to do, I always put it in Team Snap and I always put it online. And then I ask all managers to verify that those 2 things match, because sometimes I've made a mistake somewhere. Okay, and then from there, all game input and what have you, that's on the manager. If you guys are making a change to your schedule or what have you, that's on the manager. If we make changes on our end as an association to one of your practices, if something's happened or what have you, we've got to shift something around or whatever, I will notify the manager. The manager is then in charge of changing that and whatever. But for now, I try to get teams set up at the start of the season, just because, again, it's just pretty quick and easy for me to take a file and put it into Team Snap rather than you guys having to do that. It's just something I've done and I'll probably continue to do this year. But if you could just verify right now that next week, so the week after Thanksgiving, is in Team Snap, please do that. I also, it is, okay. And I also said,
I did mine.
I already did mine.
okay, great.
Oh, okay, I just figured because I was scrolling, so I just put it in.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic.
Okay, just
no,
so you
that's
don't need to
fantastic.
do ours.
It's more the week after. It's more the week after Thanksgiving that I just
Okay.
don't think I put that in Team Snap.
Oh, I put the ours in already. So
Okay,
just-
beautiful. And then every team just has one practice that week. That's it.
Okay.
And then the other thing is picture day. I think I sent that to all managers today. Get that in ASAP because it's going to come quickly. And you're going to feel that pressure to make sure that, again, you've got jerseys assigned and what have you before that day. Keiko and Zay are awesome. And they're going to be away soon, so we've got to really squeeze that in. Like, Sean, I'm really sorry it's on that day that you have like a 45-minute on your own practice and then you have 15 minutes shared, and that just happens to be picture day. But this way kids can have these things for Christmas and what have you, and they can have those things processed in time. And if you haven't worked with Keiko and Say before, they do our tournaments as well. You know, show them some love. They've been with us for so long now. They're so good to us, and yeah, they deserve a little bit of extra love. And so I'll send them a list of all the manager contacts. You might actually hear from Keiko directly at some point when she has all of your information. We're just waiting on 2 or 3 teams to name some managers, and then I'll send that to her.
I got the email for team pictures.
Yeah, I didn't get it.
So that's interesting.
I didn't get it.
I set them up. Okay, check your junk box, maybe.
Okay.
But I set them up in the manager
that
thing.
can happen with those groups. Yeah, so maybe.
So what happens there? So that doesn't
Well,
work.
eventually, if you unflag them from your spam, and also Gmail also like if you use Gmail, it categorizes them as a form. So sometimes it actually takes it out of your inbox. It's kind of weird. Yeah, I'm finding that this year because I had the same thing where I was like I didn't get that.
Okay.
But it's there. It's just
So I used to until you came along with all your tech wizardry.
I know.
I used to have.
Yeah.
I used to have like I would just create groups in like a contact group, and so then I could throw everybody into that same label or whatever, and then that was easy for me to send. So maybe I'll just go back and do that again. Okay, it was a nice try.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So thank you for bringing that up. I will make sure you all get that practice schedule ASAP when I get home, that team photo
So
schedule.
practice schedule, so the ones that have been set,
Yeah.
are those the nights? Those
I
are the
would say
days?
go by this week, of course, because this week is a full week. I don't foresee that changing.
Okay.
Yep.
Can we tell the team that or hold off?
Never tell the team anything's 100%.
However, things are always in flux.
Okay.
That's a nice way to
That's
start.
I know everybody, and there's kids that want to do other activities and all that stuff. This time of year is just a little bit garbage, and there's people who aren't happy with their practice times and all that stuff. But I would say right now I don't have any wiggle room, so I don't think it's going to change. Okay, let's wrap it up. So last few things we want to also talk about. Again, we know most of us know how lucky we are with the rink staff that we have in Canmore. They're incredibly kind. They're fun. They're patient for what they have to put up with. I mean, for those of us who know our kids sometimes just get dropped off at the arena and then they're there all day, and that like is their babysitting service. And so, our arena crew, definitely deals with a lot of those kids on a daily basis. And so again, showing them that respect. So what we want to recommend to teams is to maybe create, it's up to the coach really, but like just having that, responsible kid each week or each practice, whatever that looks like, just like a team captain that week, and essentially they're in charge of ensuring that the dressing room isn't left in a complete sty. Tape balls, water, and if there is a bunch of water on the floor, they can go ask the facility staff, can you give me a mop and I'm going to clean that up, or I want to alert you to the fact there's a bunch of, it's just again that communication. I know they appreciate it. And so yeah, that's just a recommendation. You guys do whatever you want on your teams. If you'd rather have an adult in charge of that, that's fine, but that's just one thing we kind of want to throw back on the players is, you want to have fun and everything, that's cool, but clean up after yourselves. Damages, if you guys ever have any damage in your locker rooms or whatever, please let the facility staff know ASAP so they can fix it if there's an issue. Will your team get charged? Canmore? Maybe. Banff? 100%. So don't mess around in Banff, or your team's going to be fined like $400 just to change a lock. So make sure you're doing the right things when you're in Banff. Another thing is managers communicate with your teams. Everybody signed off on that Banff user agreement during registration. Banff has a lovely facility, but they're very, very rigid when it comes to their check-in time for the game. So you might not get that hour and a half that you would love to have, or you're kind of used to when you go other places, kind of like Canmore or wherever. They're quite rigid. They always say that you're welcome to ask for a little bit of an earlier access to the room, but if the answer is no, the answer is no. There is no berating of their staff. There is no yelling. There is no, this is ridiculous. Like, that doesn't have to happen. It is what it is. It's 45 minutes. Let's just be lucky we have a nice time. We have a place to play a game. We have a ref. Wonderful, right? So you have to also let your kids know that, because some kids are just like, but I want to be, I'm so focused and I want to be there an hour and a half early. That's great. She's not going to get in the room any earlier than 45 minutes. Yeah, it's 45 minutes. You can ask, and if they can accommodate, that's great. But if they can't, that's the end of it.
45 minutes for a game and practice, or just?
Practice, I bet you it's more like half an hour.
Yeah.
I think the staff the arena staff is something that I try to emphasize with parents in a parent meeting. So if you haven't had your parent meeting yet, I would add a point for this. Like, you're gonna need a favor from those people at some point. Like, things happen. We had a game last year that I totally screwed up the time on. simple as that. Or like, your team has a bit of money left over at the end of the year because you did fundraising, you don't know how to spend it, like, buy them some donuts or something like that, or send a thank you card, like, you know,
Pizza.
they do, and, you know, I think that just builds really the relationship, and, you know, when your kids are on the ice because your coaches aren't tracking the time and they're like 2 minutes over, you know, like, if you don't wanna get buzzed right on the hour, like, that stuff kinda feeds into that, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, the nicer we are to them, they're, you know, the more
Yeah.
forgiving they're gonna
They,
be to us.
they
so.
definitely say that. They
Yeah.
want teams, I should have brought that up with the
Yeah.
coaches. But they want everybody to start wrapping up roughly 5-ish minutes, depending on how long it takes your team. You'll get to know how long it takes your kids to get off the ice. Yeah, they want you off on time. They don't want to have to repeatedly buzz, right? Like that, it's somebody else's ice time next.
Yeah.
So again, it's that respect too, not just for them, but for the teams that follow. Yeah, I guess it's just that kind of stuff. And then if you guys, they always say as well, I always have a debrief at the end of it each year with the town and Canmore staff. And they always say, if you notice anything that's wrong, I appreciate not a lot of kids are going to be showering unless they get older, but if you notice any issues with like scalding hot water versus ice cold water, if there's issues like that, if there's just any sort of issues, just to let them know. They also want to know if they can address it and fix it. And so instead of just complaining about it, they'd like to know if there's any issues. Game day practice. So if you have a bunch of new families on your team that need a little bit of help, so RHL families are probably going to want some help with the online game sheet. Is it possible to do that in practice though, at like a practice?
Yes.
Yeah?
So I was gonna, how many RHL families do we have?
Beautiful.
Okay, how many people downloaded the rap game sheet app?
Do that.
I do love this.
That's step one. So download it, have every single parent download it, because the more they have it, the easier it will be for your life. And then connect with me, and I will come to one of your practices in the next 2 weeks before tiering actually officially starts. And I will walk through a practice game with your parents. The more the merrier. I will not have a big screen, so they will all log in separately to make sure that they all understand how to use it. It is user intuitive. It is easy. You will want a scratch pad because that's how you save your life if you have a memory like me. But once you get used to it, it's really second nature. And at the end of the game, the hardest part is chasing down the ref.
Yes, and we've talked to our refs about that too.
Yes,
Yeah.
Robin is very much aware. The gentleman spoke to us at the beginning that his refs need to be up to speed with the app themselves. Not all of our refs have devices. Some are young, some are older, some are just on phones. So there is a back way to do it as a manager or the scorekeeper within the app yourself, but you need the ref there in order to do it. And that's your way of verifying that there isn't any last minute write-ups that were forgotten about during the game, which is the most pressing factor in there. But it is user intuitive, it is easy. I will walk you through it. I'm going to show you because it's easier than me just sending out instructions and you watching a YouTube video that doesn't match up with what you're trying to see.
Yeah. So, and if Kara's not available, last year we even reached out to people who have worked within the app for a year or two. They also came out and met with some teams during practices. It's the best time to practice. So even Cal teams, you want to get enough people well versed on the clock so that they're not just trying to do it for the first time maybe during a game, because it can be stressful when you have a few penalties happening at once. Ask me how I know. But anyways, use your practice time, right? Like, just invite people to come on in, let your coaches know, hey, we're gonna have some buzzing happening, we're gonna have whatever happening, but everybody has to get used to using the clock.
And for managers with RHL, you will get a login from parents.
Oh yeah, I got those
You
today.
will-
Yeah.
You will have to log in to get your game code. My piece of advice for that is, for your game, write down every code. Write down your code, write down the visitor's code if you're the home team. If you're the visiting team, they'll only have your code. Write down the official's code and write down the score box code. You need your code to log the roster. You need the score box code to do the official recording of the game. Sometimes the visiting team doesn't have theirs, so you can log in for that. And you need the official's code for them to sign off.
Do we want to create like a sheet that they can like print off and they know they need to fill out those things each game or something, so they know, oh right, still need that? I don't know, like you said, until people kind of get in the habit. Yeah. I totally had one other thing to say and now I totally forget.
For your game day practice for volunteers,
Yeah.
and I know you don't have the score books for Cal,
No.
but do you have some old ones that we could at least, I went into the locker room and grabbed a book off the top the other day, but it was RHL.
And that's fine, it would be
But
similar.
it was very
yeah,
similar.
Yeah, yeah.
Can we get an example of that?
Yep.
And then also, like, the stats for entering after a Cal game,
Mm-hmm. The data entry, so.
the data entry.
Yeah, so I've got some responses back from managers. Essentially, I think there's a form, so once I get those names, I take their name, email address, and phone number, and I do a Google form. And then that gets sent straight to the Cal, and then they would reach out and give those data entry people access to, I think it's the back end of goal line, in order to go and do the home games. So
Yeah.
data entry people are just responsible for their home games.
So that's cool, because.
And do they need any practice for that?
I think it's
Or is
like,
it pretty
I haven't done it in years, but I think it's pretty straightforward. You know, I think I was mentioning if we don't have jersey numbers in the system yet, if they're not actually online in Cal, they might have to put those jersey numbers in, but once they're in, they're generally in, and you don't have to do that every time. And you're just doing goals.
Yeah, I'd say the only
Penalties.
tricky thing can be goalies. Sometimes goalies show up weird where
Yeah.
the
On
starting
off.
goalie sometimes shows up, but they don't. Then you have to add them, and it's not intuitive. Like
Okay.
I would actually recommend if someone's done it before on your team, that like, and you know, if they can help the person that wants to do it or whatever the first time, that can be helpful.
And
'Cause
do-
there are a couple. The system's not that user friendly.
So Cal has like a data entry lead, and if I remember correctly, her name's Sue Ann. And so she would be a point of contact for those data entry people as well,
There's
right?
lots of people that
Yeah.
I know that have done it, so
Yeah.
we can ask. I just wondered, yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
They have a pretty good manual too that they'll give.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's online. I think they have it on their website as well, yeah. Okay, well, whatever it was I was gonna say is gone, so, any questions? Yes, Joanna.
One question, sorry, about fundraising. What are the limitations? Like, are gaming and liquor commission limitation, like, what, can we just do whatever fundraising we want?
Yeah, no, not overly, I think.
I can
kind of-
talk a little bit
yeah.
about that. So, yeah, if you're going to do like any sort of like raffle or anything like that for your team, you will need an AGLC license.
Okay.
So they're easy to get and they're easy to create a raffle for. It's really just, but those funds are restricted. You can't use them for like merchandise and stuff like that. You can use them for travel costs, like if you're doing like a shuttle or a bus or something like that. You can use them to pay your tournament fees. You can use them to pay like ice fees. So, but yeah, you can't get like, basically swag for the team or whatever. So if you're gonna fundraise for that, you need to do it a different way. Yeah. So there's a bunch. I'll just mention it.
Bingo, stuff like that?
That all falls under ADLC. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So we do, last year we started, a couple of the teams started kind of like a, called Battle for Bottles, I don't know, some people probably did it. And it's kind of set up so that multiple teams
And I didn't win anything.
do it,
so-
and yeah, I badgered her to sign up and she didn't, but, so that's an easy one to do, but you still, every team needs an AGLC license, because you can't do, like, it has to be per team, you can't share them among teams, so, and I'll be sending out that information to managers. That's an actual real easy one to do fundraising for. Our team raised over $3,000 last year doing it, and that one really is on the parents to get people to sign up for that one.
Yeah.
It's a wine survivor, beer survivor
Great,
thing.
okay.
So yeah, that's a good one. The other one I like to do that's pretty easy is just reaching out to your team. Like, if there's any business owners on the team that want to give the team $500, and you can buy some practice jerseys to get their logo on it. Kids get a logo with their name, because not all the kids get like a name, like, well, unless they're playing RHL, I don't think they get the names on the jerseys. And not all. How does that work this year?
What's that?
Names on the jerseys for RHL. Do they get to put names on jerseys?
The U11 always, because they're donated jerseys by McDonald's.
Okay, U11, but U13 enough. No, they're playing with, okay.
Yeah.
So, and then you have a bit of money left over from that, and those funds are unrestricted, so you can buy whatever, you can buy practice jerseys, other swag with that, so those are kind of the two things that in my experience are really easy fundraising things. And then lots of teams like do a bottle drive, obviously those funds are unrestricted, you can spend those on whatever, but
There was a Google form that we did, or at least some teams have done, in which they polled anonymously their team with respect to, do you want to do another tournament this year? How many tournaments do you want to do? And you can do 1, 2, as many as possible, none. Like, they can have all those choices, but just make it anonymous, right? Because people don't wanna feel like I've let the team down because I don't wanna do what everybody else does. And you can even on that same forum talk about fundraising and cash calls and what are you comfortable with, and you know, like, again, just keeping it kind of anonymous is probably the way to go. Go to good old Google Forms, just works real well, yeah. Anything else? Fantastic.
So, sorry, just like what's the jersey assignments, you said you were gonna need those in a few days.
Preferably, but at the same time, if you don't have a practice for a few days, then I also understand that, you know, it might not happen. Obviously, we've tried to take a lot of the guesswork out where you can see what numbers you have and what sizes the kids need, and so it should be pretty straightforward. If you want to send out to all the kids that fit a youth large, here's the options, and see, you know, oh, but I also want, you can do whatever you want. I'm not gonna micromanage who gets, but like some managers are like, you get what you get, and other managers are like, I'll get you whatever you want. Like it's tough, right? It's tough. So yeah, I just leave that up to them.
One of the two youth large, so I already told what number he's getting. Like, that's how it goes.
Yeah, there you go.
Your miniature, that's all there is.
Come on.
You said one of two. Yeah. Yeah, cool. Well, I'm going to stick around because I have to talk to Kara here yet, but if anybody has any other questions they want to ask, I'll be here for a little bit.